can we get on to some real stuff, man?
Yeah,
We
man.
got
Can
this
you
man
bring it up?
Philando
Cause
Castile died.
yeah, go ahead and get to that. Cause I'm gonna let you lead on that one.
We got this young brother that we know. We all saw the video last year. Philando Castile, shot by the police officer after a traffic stop, which was about a busted tail light. His girlfriend or fiance, I'm not exactly certain what their relationship status was at the time, videotaped the entire, well, not the entire interaction, but so much of the interaction that we were all shocked and horrified. And this past week, after the verdict came out, where the police officer was exonerated, um, the dash cam video was made available, which just shows the officer, approaching the vehicle. Also, you can hear Philando Castile say, "Officer, sir, I have to let you know that I am carrying my weapon. I'm licensed to carry." And that's kind of a
He didn't
paraphrasing
say he
of the
had a
fact.
permit. He did not say he had a permit though.
Right. He did not say that, but he said, I have a firearm.
Right.
So he was essentially now, and I don't know how it is in Minnesota where this occurred, but in the state of Virginia, if you are licensed to carry, it's on your driver's license. So when you hand the cop your driver's license, the cop sees that you're licensed, and he immediately says, "Do you have your weapon on you?" So quite possibly something similar may exist there. I don't know, and that's why he offered that information to the police officer up front. Anyhow, as you can see in the video, he was being courteous to the officer. But prior to him being able to finish that full statement, the officer said, "Give me your license and registration, insurance card, etc." So I'm sorry, Philando, I'm sorry, I apologize. Philando Castile started to reach for that and was also informing the officer at the same time, which some could say this is a mistake, but he didn't do anything necessarily wrong. And the officer shot him. We know this, right? So that's the story of the video. The officer was found not guilty and exonerated, and they gave the family $3.6 million. I believe is the $3 million
$3 million
is the settlement on Monday. And I always, the other day, Megyn Kelly had on Erin, what's her name? The girl from Sports Illustrated or ESPN that got peeped on, Erin Andrews or
yeah,
whatever. I can't remember her name. And she was on TV and she was crying about, she was violated because some guy was able to videotape her or take pictures of her without her knowledge in a hotel room. She was awarded $55 million. $55 million. This man is dead and his family gets $3 million. If you go and look, Tamir Rice, $6 million. Mike Brown's family was $3 or $4 million for his family. There's been no justice for Trayvon Martin's family. No financial justice for Trayvon Martin to the best of my knowledge, and so on and so forth. If you add up the settlements that these families have received over maybe 10 of these people in the past 3 or 4 years, it doesn't reach $55 million. So what the world is telling us, that a peek at a white woman's ass is worth more than 10 black dead people.
So are you surprised?
that was his
No,
moment, Lamont. Damn it, that was his moment.
listen. This
I'm
not a
sorry.
surprise.
I
It's
didn't
not a
know.
surprise. No, let's just make certain, because we do have people who listen who may not. We have people who listen who are part of our black community, and we have people who listen who aren't part of the black community. They need to recognize that this is what's really happening. That is, if a police officer kills a black man in his vehicle for basically trying to get his wallet out, we'll give him $3 million. But if you make a mistake and you steal a peek at a white woman's ass, you're gonna have to pay $55 million. That's just to let you know where we are valued in this culture.
Yeah,
and we need to let our friends and family who are not black who don't understand this, and our friends and family who are black, because there's a brother out there right now, the Black Conservative is what he goes by on Facebook, who's basically blaming Philando Castile for everything that went down.
But see, Maynard, but not to cut you off, but I had this discussion the other night, and this is not going to be popular with both of you guys, probably with a few other people, and I'm not saying that this is right, but as a former licensed firearm holder, there were a few things that he could have possibly done differently. And here's the first thing, and this is what's so sad to say, but this is our responsibility as black men in America. During a traffic stop, it is our job to de-escalate the situation by any means necessary. Unfortunately, it is our job to make the policemen feel safe, because the reality is that they have the power in that particular stop. Now, I'm not saying that dude did anything wrong, not at all, but unfortunately, there were some other things that he could have done differently. He could have slowed down the process. When I say slow down the process, for example, if this was me, that's what I told a few people, is that I would not have reached for anything. I would have said, officer, I would like to exit the vehicle. Officer, I would like for you to take my firearm. Officer, I would like for you to get my driver's license, because here is where it is. Because like you just said, historically in this country, like, bro, the police are the slave catchers. That's what they morphed into. That's their job, to catch us doing something wrong. And sometimes we didn't make it back to the plantation, bro. That's the history of what this is. So what you just said, you're right about taking a peek at a white woman's ass, because we're not valued, period. And the homie Killer Mike, he said this, I'll never forget he said this, is that we have to teach some of our younger black men that, dude, the key to this is trying to survive the encounter. You know what I'm saying? Because if you give them the smallest inkling, they can do what they did to that brother up in Minnesota, period. And they get to go home. And he still gets a check. And then, like you said, they insulted that mother and that family and the girlfriend and the baby with 3 M's. That's it. 3?
Yeah, let me jump in the disagreeing part. I understand your point. I agree. However, unfortunately, this guy is a school custodian, you know. He worked at a school. I don't want to say, I think it was custodian, but I could be wrong. He calmly said to the officer, "Officer, I want to let you know that I do have a firearm." In a calm way, not, "Yo, I want to let you know I got a gun."
Right.
As a citizen and as a gun owner, and, you know, even looking it up, because I looked it up in Minnesota, if you have a permit, you can carry your weapon on you, you know, because I wanted to know, because in Michigan, you can't carry your gun on you when you're transporting, you know, when you're transporting your gun, you can't have it on you, it has to be locked. But in Minnesota, you have open carry law. It's the officer's job to de-escalate the situation. The responsibility on the citizen shouldn't be, especially on a black man, but anybody. I should not have to de-escalate the situation. The officer is trained. The officer has went to the academy. The officer is getting paid to protect and serve. That is their job, to protect and serve. The officer did not say, okay, if you have a vehicle, put both hands on the wheel, put your hands out of the vehicle, or anything of that nature. He said, okay, reach for it slowly. That's what he responded to. So when Philando Castile is reaching to the, unfortunately, you know, to the officer's defense, he goes into panic mode, because that's what this whole thing is about, in my opinion. He goes into panic mode and shoots this man with his girlfriend and his kid in the car 7 times. Not a warning shot.
Right.
Not a, you know, shoot you in the arm. 7 times he shot this man. So, yes, we can look back on it and say, man, I wish Philando Castile would have just, or he should have, or maybe if he would have, or maybe I should not have to, after that happened last year, I had to have a conversation with my kids about how to approach the police, about what to do when you're pulled over. I shouldn't have to have that conversation, but we do, like you said. We do have to, unfortunately, de-escalate it. But Philando Castile did everything that he was supposed to do in that scenario. Unfortunately, the police officer panicked and he shot him.
Well, you know what was interesting about the case, as you can see in the dash cam video, is his partner cop, the other cop, didn't even have his gun out.
No,
he didn't even have his gun.
He wasn't even around. He was chilling.
He was like, "Oh, this is just everything is cool." And the thing too is, you just like what Killer Mike says, you want to survive the encounter, and so do the cops. They want to survive the encounter. So I recognize that they have an inherent fear for whatever reasons, except they go home most days. You don't hear about police shootings. You don't hear about cops getting killed every day, or not nearly as frequently as cops getting killed as you hear about black men being murdered by police officers. So I don't know where this crazy fear always comes from. That's
from black people?
The fear that police have of black men. I don't know why.
we don't have enough time in the podcast on that one, Maynard.
But listen, but hold on, but you know, what did Malcolm say? I charge you with being the greatest rapist on the face of the planet, the greatest murderer on the face of the planet, et cetera, because that is truth. That is truth. But you cannot find the truth in that we are the savages.
But we are the savages.
No, we're not.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back to. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They try to, we have assumed this savage thing. We have assumed this mantra of savage, but we're not. We're not. I was sitting in one time when I was in my master's program, a girl said, I can't find a good man because there's more black men in prison than there are in college. I went and broke that down. And it was wholly false. But if you let these people teach you or tell you that we're more dangerous, that we're more violent, that we are more likely to be in prison, etc. There are 2 million people in America in prison. 900,000 of them are black. And certainly we may over-index for being in prison. There's 330 million people. Where is this dangerous society? We're not talking 1% of the population. So it's unfortunate that for whatever reason, whether it was Birth of a Nation in 1915, whether it was all the other things, you don't remember the days where the Black Panther Party went and killed up a bunch of black people. A bunch of white people. You don't see the pictures of black men and women and children standing around in the public square of 1920 or 1930 with a white man being hung. But you see that the other way around. Is that true?
Very much.
You don't remember the story of us lynching white people on sight. Emmett Till wasn't a white boy who whistled at a black woman that we as black people murdered. It was the other way around. Medgar Evers only wanted freedom. It wasn't a black boy that bombed a church in Birmingham, Alabama that killed 4 little innocent white girls. It's the other way around. Dylann Roof walked into that church and killed 9 black people who were praying, who decided that they, in fact, before they knew his motives, they prayed with him. So that whole idea that we are the savages, that's wholly false on its face. It's intellectually false.
Intellectually false, you're right. Perceptually, you're wrong. Let's go back to your... Hold on.
If people paint a
for
picture,
3 minutes and 32 seconds.
Go.
Let's go back to your Birth of a Nation analogy. The movie Birth of a Nation, the original one, right? Mm-hmm. The fear of black men has always been there. So we already know from that context that there's already a fear of black men from the white race. I think that that fear has continued on until the day we speak. The savage part that I speak of is, I'll even take, which I had to agree with Stevie Wonder in regards to, you can't say that Black Lives Matter if you continue to kill the culture. 10, 15 minutes ago, we just talked about Future poisoning our kids with the music. Some of the things that we do to ourselves do not cause or justify for us to be killed or raped or molested or hung or any of that. But some of the things that we do to ourselves, to Lamont's point, devalues who we are and makes other cultures look at us in a way that I think, and this is opinion, that they can get away with. So when it comes to the savage mentality, perception, I think from Birth of a Nation to Philando Castile, there's a fear there, and that fear is that we're evil, that we're savages, that we are rapists, that we are. Look at the president of the United States who took a full-page ad out on the, Central Park 5. Never even knew the guys. Never even met the guys. Never even talked to the guys.
You know what that means? You know what that is, Spud?
Said, yo.
That's the takes one to know one concept, right? Because you said the president of the United States took out the full page ad about the 5 boys in the Wilding case. The guy, the same, where they were accused of rape and assault, etc. The same guy who took out that ad is the guy who said, I just reach up and grab them by the lady parts. What I'm saying is, he is thinking these things because this is what he's guilty of.
Yes, but to Stevie Wonder's point, would you agree that some of these things paint a picture? They're not true, to your point, because I agree. The sad part about the narrative of what I think your point is, and you and I talk about this a lot, is that the narrative of the picture that's painted of African Americans is so totally false that it's ridiculous. To your point of, can't find a black man because all the black men are in jail. Girl, that ain't true. All black men sell drugs. That ain't true. All black men are dogs. That ain't true. All these kids are bad. Everybody's a dope dealer. That ain't true. None of these things are true. But the narrative that we paint for the African American community is a generalization. It isn't.
But this is the problem.
Some white people are rich and some people are poor.
This is the problem with that. We as black men, for whatever reason, have to hold the weight of one black man doing one thing, right? The guy who he was a crazy dude, black guy, I can't remember his name, went on the train in New York one time and shot up people, then went and defended himself in court and lost or whatever.
The boxer?
All of a sudden, I don't remember. I don't know. All of a sudden, we are tagged with holding that weight. If one black man commits a rape, then we as black men have to hold that weight. But white men do this all the time, and they don't say, well, all white people are this way. What I'm trying to explain is, certainly there are perceptions about black men. These perceptions are actually probably more true about other people than they are about us. But they have, and this goes back to what I was just saying about the idea of when Chuck D was trying to give us a positive message, they in turn decided that they would promote the negative message over the positive. That's why the conscious rappers don't get their space, because it's not appetizing to the white media of this country that prefers to see us as Huggy Bear or as the pimps from Beretta or Starsky and Hutch, all the way through being Wesley Snipes playing Demolition Man. He's just super uber thug, horrible, dirty black villain character, or what have you, or the Birth of a Nation from 1915. They didn't need. They didn't feel this way. They created the need to feel this way so they can just justify their own evils.
So Maynard, let me ask you this quick question, and I'm just going to put my foot in here because, and I hate to sound redundant or repetitive, and you told me that if you had an ice box or a refrigerator or a freezer or whatever, and one in the black home and one in the white home, that the ice is gonna come out the same, right?
Yes, it will.
But again, you got to remember historically, I mean, there really were a generation of people that really did believe that white ice was colder, bro. So it's like,
so
again,
when do we stop believing that, and when do we start waking up to the idea that we have, as let's screw America for a moment. Let's not talk about being American. We have as much right to stand and walk and breathe for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as any other person on the face of this planet. But we can't accept that, well, for years and years and years that they told us that white ice was colder, so we just kind of gotta, we're gonna get there. When we get there, it's gonna be okay. No, we can't do that any longer. And that's not to say that we are going to go out here and be revolutionaries and start some kind of civil war. I'm not suggesting that. That's not to say. That's to say that we have no longer can have the speech of, I know that they treat me as less than a man, so I'm prepared to accept less than a man. No, we have got to say, I am a man. And you treat me with respect.
At the same time, and all I'm saying again, and I want to make sure I'm being respectful as I can, to him, his memory, and his family up in Minnesota, is that, unfortunately, Maynard, I get it. But at the same time, I still say that, and Spud said he had to talk to his child, his male boy, because I think it's different between, when we talk about black children, black boys and black girls. That's really, really unfortunate. But it's like, it's wrong, Maynard, but we have to de-escalate. It's our jobs. But I know you said that that's not how it should be. But dude, that's how this is. That's what this is. And just like, I don't have any kids, but, younger people that I know, we all want them to come home, bro. Like, just off something very silly, you know what I mean? As stopping somebody about a broken tail light, that we got to escalate a broken tail light up to.
But the problem with that, Lamont, is, sorry to cut you off, but the problem is those things happen. And to Maynard's point in regards to being a man, black men have to start being men first, right? And there's the little things that, and I understand we all been through it, and having a busted tail light is a minor thing. But I read in some other, I'm going to say conservative, newspapers and articles when they were talking about Philando Castile, and they tried to paint the picture of him as somebody who was criminal-like because they, said that he was stopped like more than 50 times and, his criminal record and so forth and so on. Because that was their way of justifying the fact that the police officer shot somebody and got away with it. So those little small things we got to get rid of, or we got to do better by. Because had he not had he probably would have, because, there was a robbery already in Minnesota, and I'm sure that the police were already looking for it. They probably would have just pulled him over, driving while black anyway. However, those little things of not having insurance, and again, I'm just reaching for straws, but not having insurance, not having a busted light.
Now let me say something here.
None of those things justify it. But
so you mean to tell me a white woman can walk down the streets of Brooklyn or Manhattan or any place, and she can have on the skimpiest, sluttiest outfit, and if you touch her, the first thing is, well, you know what? She was dressed like a slut. Well, just because she was dressed like a slut don't make her slut. Don't give you license.
Yeah, but that ain't law, though. No, that ain't law.
Hold on. But we accept that in society. When a white woman says, I have the luxury or the white privilege to go out to a nightclub, get pissy drunk, kiss any of these men I want, fill them up, and then say, "Oh, he touched my behind, therefore I'm prepared to press charges," and her behavior is not an issue. Or if she says, "I look this way," doesn't mean that I'm that way, and we respect that and acknowledge that. Yo, you can't. That's a line you can't cross.
No,
Spud,
you can't go out. You can't go out, Maynard.
You can't go out as a black man.
As a grown man,
especially
as a black man, as a grown man, you can't. You wouldn't go out right now. I'm sure you have. I'm sure we all have. And I don't know. And I think Philando Castile was like 25 or 26. So I'm sure in those ages, I'm sure we all have, right? But now, as a man, you wouldn't go out without no proof of insurance. You wouldn't go out with a busted tail light. You won't even bring that attention to you.
You don't even know, though. How many times have you been riding with a busted taillight and you didn't even know until someone else told you?
Very much true.
Means you were already
I'm not
out.
justifying it. I'm not justifying
you know what? But this is the difference, though, Spud. You're right, and I understand that these are things that come our way, but we have got to stop letting this be the story that's told about us in the media. We have got to stop letting this be the story that makes cops, white, black, other color cops, because this is not just white cops shooting black people. Most often that's what we see, but something about once you put on blue, a lot of times you are trained, or like, I've always had this story in my head. They see us as a spider. And the first time you see a spider, if it's crawling on your bed, you'll be like, "Oh, he's going to get me. I got to get him first." And so that's what happens. We have got to make people understand. We have to do this through our congresspersons. We have to do this through organizations like Black Lives Matter. We have to start letter writing campaigns. We got to start telling mayors, who usually are the bosses of police chiefs, that you are going to police this community with people who look like me and people who are having conversations with me, and not people who just think of themselves that they need to police me. I'm sorry, Lamont, go ahead.
Maynard. And I want to ask you a question about your beautiful daughter, but first I want to say something. I said it before, is you always talk about trying to legislate a thought process, and that's I don't think that's going to work. And my question to you, even about your daughter, right? Do you, or have you, or will you say to your daughter, in whatever life lessons that it may be, that, you know what, pretty little girl, that you're going to have to be twice as careful, twice as good, twice as X, Y, and Z than somebody that may be in your peer group? Would you tell your daughter something like that?
Yeah, I think that is an unfortunate reality. I agree with that much.
Right. So now, and what you're just saying that is we're really all saying the same thing. Because with Spud's son, unfortunately, if he's driving his car, it's almost like every time you get in a car, you look at the tires, you need to look at your headlights, you need to make sure your turn signal working. It's like flying a plane. You better do a safety check every go round.
But how do you check your brake lights if you're getting in the car by yourself?
Well, I don't want to bring a comedic space to it, but the kind of car I drive, you know what I mean? It's going to let me know when I turn it on that something's not right. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So fine, Lamont, and we know that light bulbs go out, right? And
yes,
so if
absolutely.
you know that you were supposed to be coming to Virginia for this show, right? And let's just say you thought, it's just as easy to drive there. And then
I'm not driving, man. I'm not driving. I got to bring some because it's heavy right now, so I want to lighten it up. I'm taking an Uber to the airport, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. So you, myself, and Spud were together in New York a couple months ago.
Right.
And we were riding in your vehicle.
Right. Absolutely.
3 black men riding in a nice BMW.
Yes.
And what's to say while crossing the Brooklyn Bridge from Manhattan in that a taillight doesn't go out?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is this has nothing to do with the taillight. Spud hit the nail on the head a second ago. There was a robbery somewhere else, and that made every black man a suspect.
Yes.
And for a taillight, cops listen, if I got a taillight that's out, cops don't have to approach my vehicle with their gun drawn. It's a taillight. It had nothing to do with the taillight. And I know what you're saying, and I know what Spud is saying. This is the entry point. This is this is the technicality of how I caught this ninja. But we have got to, and you're right. I can't make people not hate by way of legislation. I can't make people not be afraid by way of legislation. I agree. But we're going to let these mayors know. We're going to let these police chiefs know. These sheriffs know. We're going to, and we need to also let our children know. We need to let our young men in our communities know. And we need to be involved with our civic leagues and other organizations to create a better space between us and police officers who work in our neighborhoods. But they're not going. This cannot stand. And the idea to say at this point that, well, you know what, I agree with Mike. It's your job to survive the encounter because you have a family, you have children or wives or whoever you have at home that need and depend on you. But what I'm hearing is Philando Castile could have done so much more different. That's blaming the rape victim for being raped.
I don't think he could have did anything more different. I think that he did everything the right way. Yeah, I think he did everything the right way. Let me kind of see if I can take this in layers. Into where you're trying to go, which I wish, and I say this all the time, unfortunately, Black lives just don't matter. And that's just unfortunate. But this is the picture that they paint, right? So let's go back to the first layer. The first layer is the white racist, right? The white supremacist. Okay, let's just start with that. So all the way from, let's just go back to our first analogy of Birth of a Nation. We've already been painted to be evil, fearful, crooked, criminal. I mean, 13th, the documentary talks about this. Strong, black. We already are painted in a fearful mindset to white supremacy. So I got to do everything I can to defend myself and my family against the evil black man. So I got to take them away from their families. I got to take the man out of the household. I got to create Jim Crow so that way, I can keep them, in line for years. I got to create a Willie Lynch letter so that way we can keep black folks in check. No, this isn't about a traffic stop. I mean, about a broken tail light. This is about, but now I can paint the picture of Philando Castile because he had a broken tail light. But now let me pull up his record, which I've just pulled it up. Okay? No proof of insurance, guilty. Basic speed, guilty. Driving after suspension, dismissed. I mean, no, 50 encounters. This ain't got nothing to do with this man being killed. However, this is the picture that I have to paint to justify that the officer, the white supremacist, is right. Because the black man is wrong. I got to produce either a weapon or there was a weapon here, or the case that was in, I think, North Carolina where they were saying that the guy had this, the gun, and, the lady was saying that, no, he was just taking his meds. But we shot him because he had a gun. These small little things that put us in these positions don't help, is my point to that, which goes to the second layer. If I already fear you, now I could just disrespect you because you don't respect yourself. Because you're going to drive around with no license. You're going to drive around with a, busted tail light. I hate to use that analogy, but I'm throwing it in there. You're going to drive around with no proof of insurance. You're going to drive around with a gun in a car that's not registered. You're going to kill yourselves. You're going to sell dope in your community. Not only are you going to do that, you're going to kill each other. And then on top of that, you're going to glorify the people who got out of your community who's basically mentally selling dope right back to you. I.e., if we want to use the poison analogy. That's the second layer. Now you're asking me to go against those two things and call my congressperson? Call the mayor? You want me to call the mayor after this police officer got away with shooting a black man who probably didn't have valid proof of insurance at the time? I mean, we're all saying the same thing to Lamont's point, and you're right, Maynard. I don't know if the strategy in regards to how it stops, because I think I hear what you're saying is this has to stop, and we got to do this, and we got to do that. We do. But going back to ending my point on what Stevie Wonder said, in regards to, we can't say Black Lives Matter and we don't care about black lives. We don't care about ourselves. We think we can continue to get over on the system. And the reason why a white woman can go into a bar and fill up a bunch of black guys and then yell rape after that is because the picture isn't painted there. It's like Rosewood, right? The reason why Rosewood happened in the movie is because a white man raped a white woman and she blamed it on a black man. Why? Because the picture of the white man, the perception of the white man isn't savage, isn't criminal, isn't fearful,
Isn't that
evil.
ironic? Isn't that ironic?
It is. Because
isn't that
ironic? Going back to Malcolm X's point,
the greatest.
The greatest criminal of all time, murderer, is the one.
Rapist.
I mean,
pillaged Africa.
But the perception isn't painted that way. So,
you know, the perception of black and brown people so bad that during the Reagan administration, Reagan and Margaret Thatcher went and killed up Grenada. Grenada got like 50 people in their military. I'm just saying, if you're, look, I mean, a couple of years ago, Pat Robertson was saying, Haiti should be damned for their refusal to be governed by France. This is not just an American thing. This is not just a white people in America thing and a black people in America thing. This goes back longer than the Bible. The only reason why you believe that Jesus is white is because they made you believe it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the reason why they made you believe it is so that you can believe. Because Jesus is what? He is right. He is right. Is that correct?
And white is right.
Exactly. All right, we didn't brought this down too far.
Woo! Lamont, we lost Lamont. We didn't lost Lamont.
No, I just kept telling y'all, and I'm really offended because
we ain't talking about Molly and Percocet. We ain't talking about Molly and Percocet.
No, my dude, like I keep telling y'all.
Thoughts.
No, that white ice is colder, and you all went all the way around the block. And again, like you said, it could have been, and I know we took it heavy, but if you just would have changed the complexion of, Mr. Castile, I mean, you're right. It would, and he could have been a meth head. He could have had X, Y, and Z. But that level of aggression, I think, in police work, it's something that's ingrained in that system, man. It's like
sometimes it may not even be aggression, Lamont. It could just be fear. It could just be.
And I think that's right because they're taught to fear us. Yeah. Right. I mean, even all the way down from, and I know you all remember this, and I never thought of it like this, the symbolism of King Kong and how, there was a big to-do when LeBron James had that.
Right, true.
That, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's on so many different levels that, they are afraid of, of our hue. You know what I mean? But again.
I agree with you, Lamont. You're right. You on to it. But the funny part is that they celebrate.
We going
they
deep.
They celebrate their criminality, right? It's celebrated. In the late 70s, early 80s, there was a TV show about some people from a community and a flag that is anti-American. They were just the good old boys. They never meant no harm. The Duke boys were criminals.
You talking about was it Bo and Luke Duke?
Yes. They were just the good old boys.
Listen,
were
man.
always on the run from the law.
Listen,
they never
man.
meant no harm, though.
Listen,
They
man.
were hold on. They were running dope. I mean, they were running Shine. They
Okay.
were running around here with that daggone General Lee Confederate flag, which is last time I checked, the Confederacy is a country that was erected that fought a war against America. So that's treasonous.
You know what,
shooting these arrows that blow up stuff.
Maynard, you know what? It just took me 40 plus years for me to put that together because you're right. It was a Confederate flag on the top of that car.
Right.
And until now, I didn't really understand because I was 10 or 12, so I didn't know what that meant. But you're right. So it was ingrained in me that the Confederate flag was supposed to be on top of the General Lee. You're right.
Well, at least your mom didn't tell you that.
No, she wouldn't tell me that. She was too busy lying to me about Santa Claus. You know what I'm saying? And that damn Easter bunny. You feel what I'm saying? And Mama,
just the good old boys.
Yeah.
Never meaning no harm.
Yeah.
Beats all you never saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day they were born. They were straightening the curves and flattening the hills.
You don't know Bad and Bougie, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading
it. I'm reading it off the internet.
You don't know Raindrops. Drop Top.
They were making a way the only way they know how.
So were there any black people? Were there any black people on that show ever?
There was a sheriff. There was always a black sheriff from the other town. He never said, he ain't had no lines. He ain't had no lines
in the other town.
Yeah, he stood at the county line looking like, don't you come across this county. Bo and Luke Duke, don't come across here. That was it. They would, do a U-turn, and Roscoe P. Coltrane would chase them, and
Roscoe P. Coltrane.
You get a W for that, man. I forgot all about the Dukes of Hazzard. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for this Monday.
Hold on, hold on.
Oh man, I got something else.
One last thing. Joey B, I'm gonna let you slide, Joe Buttons.
Oh, I'm sorry. We gotta do the cactus. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the cactus of the week. It's time for the cactus of the week. This is where somebody gets the cactus or has to choke on the cactus because of something stupid that they said. They said some stupid stuff. Anyway, Maynard, who's getting the cactus? My bad.
As we discussed a little bit earlier about the whole interview between Migos and academics and along with Joe Budden, I really got a problem with my man academics. A minute ago, like I said, you got checked by Vic Mensa. You look a little shook on your own show. You're not really built for these streets like that, my dude. God bless you. Jamaican national, comes to America, does all right, makes it big as a DJ, whatever. Rutgers educated. Lamont, Rutgers, and not far from where you live. Is that right?
No comment.
State of New Jersey.
No comment.
It's in the state in which you live.
Okay, yeah, it was in the state. Yeah, absolutely, okay. Absolutely.
I'm not trying to. Oh yeah, nah. To make 2 left-hand turns and you'll be at Lamont's front door, but it's a gate, y'all. Y'all ain't getting across there without the.
It's actually a compound, sir. It's a compound. That's the gate. So yes.
It's your boy DJ Academics, and check it out. That's his little catchphrase. Academics, I want you to, it's your boy Maynard Scales. Check this out. I got this cactus. It's for you. Because, dude, you did try to. I don't like Migos. I don't necessarily care for their music, but they did their thing. They got a song. I'm not a fan of it. But, hey, I'm not a fan of a lot of people. I don't like necessarily a lot of songs by Dolly Parton. That doesn't mean it's not good music for somebody else. You brought them on your show for the sole intention to disrespect them. At least I give Joe Buttons his props for just being straight out disrespectful. Joe's just like, I'm going to be disrespectful. But you try this, on the slide, underhanded, sneaky, I'm smarter than you and I'm going to make you look stupid thing. That is cactus worthy, my dude. So I hope right now, the next time you crack a mic and you get a little bit close to it, you get a little bit cactus in the throat right there. In fact, not a little bit, take a lot. And that's the cactus of the week.
So, whoa, Maynard, I just need you to kind of retract one of your statements or part of your cactus. You ready?
Go ahead.
I mean, you said that they had a song. I mean, you got to let them little boys breathe, man.
I mean, they got whatever they happen to have. They got it. And I don't know. I don't know enough
Migos
about
got a couple hot records, man.
No, they got a few hot records. Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
Migos is probably the hottest group in music right now, in hip hop.
Yes.
That's fine. You can have that. I'm not. My focus is not on Migos. My focus is not on Migos. My focus is on academics and his childlike. Because there's one thing that we know: Joe Budden is not a radio personality. He's there to add shenanigans. It's the same way with the Breakfast Club. You know, Charlemagne is really there to add the shenanigans, right? But Envy,
the great Charlemagne, by the way, the great Charlemagne,
the great Charlemagne.
And I was gonna say, man, are you calling him kind of like a clown? Is it buffoonish? Is it clownish? Is it, are we buck dancing or what are we doing?
It's dynamite. Of course, it's buffoonery. Of course, it's buffoonery.
I like Joe Budden's podcast though.
Hold on,
did you say dynamite? You say dynamite?
Dynamite. We know, and no diss on Charlemagne. We know that he's there to be provocative. That's his part. He is provocative. Envy is less provocative. All these shows have a DJ that's the centerpiece who kind of carries the program and asks the good questions. And then you have this other person who's supposed to be provocative. Joe plays the provocative role in this trio. Academics, you're supposed to be the straight man. But you really want to be somebody you're not. Like Vic Mensa said, you're not a thug. You're not tough in these streets. That's Vic's words. And you didn't back down from that. On your own show, in your own home, he punked you. That's A. Then you turn around, and I think because you got a few more pounds than the cats from Migos, you thought maybe I could punk them. But even though they were wearing the fly Japanese shirts and the tight pants, they looked like they were ready to. They were ready to come up out of that.
Yo, listen, hey, don't let these folks, don't let this Mick Jagger shirt fool you.
Right. Don't let the Dacron, don't let the shiny silky Dacron fool you. Right.
Hey, man,
they were ready to put hands on you.
Hey man, I just want to make sure y'all ain't sneak dissing, man. I'm trying to give me one of them shirts, man. I was on Amazon. I was on Amazon.com trying to get hot. What?
Lamont, man. They got a Jap.
You didn't went to this.
They got a Japanese print romper. Lamont, what's your size, dude?
I need like 4 X's, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. All right. No problem. No problem. They got one in every color with a pair of matching sandals too.
Hey man, just send me a Cash App email, man. I got you. Take care of me.
All right. Venmo that right there. All right. Go, Spud. I turn it back over to you.
All right, we out, man. We've been talking for 2 hours, and we truly appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back again. Maynard will be back from Japan. From Japan. Mine will be back from the BET Awards, and we'll be back in studio holding it down again for another episode of Three Black Guys with a Mic. Next Tuesday, y'all have a great week. Wait, hold on. I got to give a shout out. Shout out to Anita Randall. I'm sure she probably hasn't listened this long, but shout out to Anita Randall for, giving me the, the pointers on the BET Awards, because she wanted to make sure that we talked about the BET Awards on this podcast. So I want to give her a shout out. She's been down with us since day one. So shout out to Anita Randall for the BET, references. And we'll be back with y'all again next Tuesday. We holla.
That's my ace. Peace.